So we're going to take a look at a reaction 5E, F, and G and see what they have in common. So let's take a look. Well, G, we've got an element and I've got a compound as a reactant. So element and compound. And on my product side, I also have a compound and an element. When I look a little bit closer, it appears as though the copper just took the place of the silver, and then the silver became all on his own. So the element switched places with one of the ions in the compound. Let's see if that's what happened in F. So in F, again, we've got element and compound. And I suppose we can be really specific and say it's an ionic compound is what we've got. And as my products, I've got an ionic compound and element. Again, the zinc looks like it took the place of the tin inside our compound. So we've got our element swaps places with an ion in the compound. Let's see if that's what's happening in E. And sure enough, in E, I've got that same pattern. I have an element and ionic compound as my reactants. And as my products, oh, I shouldn't say ionic. It's actually water, which is a compound. So I'm just going to erase that. We'll say compound. And I've got, as a product, I've got an ionic compound and an element. And in this case, it wasn't as obvious as it was in G or F and G, but the potassium did take the place of one of those hydrogens. And so that's where hydrogen became the element product and potassium became part of our compound. So we've got an element swapped places with an ion. So let's summarize that up. We've got in those reactions E, F, and G, our single replacement, we've got an element and compound as reactants. And a new element and a new compound as products. And this is what we call a single replacement reaction. An element, the single, is replacing one of those ions in the compound. Sometimes it's kind of referring as swapping of partners. We've got a couple, here's our compound, and one member of that couple is like, hey, you know what? This relationship, this pairing doesn't work for me, and so it goes off to be its single. And the other part of that couple, that single that was there, is like, hey, I'll be your partner instead. And so we've got that single replacement taking place, where we have an element is becoming part of the compound and shooting one of those ions out of the compound and into its element form.